The scene opens in a barren and desolate wasteland, filled with bones and marked by a blood-red hue. The narrative asserts that only those who pass the test of the demon king Astrea, tasked with destroying the human world, can receive the title of one of the 72 demon kings. The scene then cuts to a grotesque skeleton with a centipede crawling through the cavity in its skull. The narration continues, stating that each demon king receives a special power from Astrea. In a dark and imposing hall, adorned with details in red and purple, a man sits on a sofa beside a woman. He declares that he is no exception. The man then calls for Lilith, who responds affirmatively, recognizing him as the demon king, revealing to him that his power is GACHA, which leaves him perplexed and frustrated. He questions the utility of such power in a confrontation with a hero, imagining the possible humiliation of having his strength determined by a GACHA system. Desperate, he begs Lilith to change his power, but she tells him it's impossible to change the power granted by the Demon King. Lilith tries to comfort him, but he despairs at the thought of how he will rule the world with a power like GACHA. Lilith advises him not to speak ill of the Demon King, reminding him that he swore loyalty, and the Demon King, with a demonic expression, repeats the death threat if he continues to complain. He argues that unlike the other Demon Kings with formidable powers, he received only GACHA. Lilith then reveals that the Great Demon King is addicted to a game from another world, a game of probability, and that's why he granted the power of GACHA to him. Shaken, the Demon King comes across the information that the Great Demon King has topped the server rankings thanks to his abilities. He observes, incredulous, the server ranking information where the name of the Great Demon King ranks first. Still incredulous about the situation, he questions whether the Demon King's rise to the top ranking is cause for celebration. Confused and disheartened, he decides to at least try to use his power. Lilith promptly activates the GACHA power. A golden aura envelops the Demon King as bright cubes materialize around him. He then opens one of the cubes, hoping for something magical or powerful to emerge. But to his surprise and disappointment, a small green gelatinous being emerges from the box. Lilith, with a sweat drop on her head, suggests he open the next box. Another gelatinous being, this time pink, emerges, followed by another green one. Finally, 5 slimes were on his shoulders and head, leaving the Demon King even more frustrated. With a mocking tone in her voice, Lilith warns that there is still one box left. Determined to change his luck, the Demon King prepares to open the last box, eager to discover what fate has in store for him. A bright light emanates from the box, and the Demon King, with wide eyes, watches in surprise. A beautiful woman, surrounded by a purple aura, materializes before him. He is astonished, unsure of who she is, arguing with Lilith that she was a young succubus. The woman, relieved that she was not another slime, however, quickly finds that the succubus is still too young and has no powers to show. Indignant at the situation, he regrets having made an effort in the academy only to receive a useless prize. Lilith advises him to adapt to the situation, but he refuses to accept it, arguing that demons should always seek more power. Determined to change his fate, the Demon King orders Lilith to open a portal. He declares that he will confront the Great Demon King personally. Crossing through the portal, they arrive in a dark and sinister place, permeated by lightning and shadow. The narrator explains that this is the office of Demon King Entering the luxurious and imposing office, the Demon King and Lilith encounter 2 imposing demons. Suddenly, an explosion of energy occurs behind the man. Startled, the Demon King realizes that something is wrong. Looking back, he is shocked by a sight. A young woman with pink hair and extravagant clothing, emitting a powerful and challenging aura. The young woman introduces herself and declares that she is fine. The Demon King, in his thoughts, regrets the encounter, tries irritated, reproaches him for his audacity, and prepares to attack with a powerful blast of energy. Frightened, he thinks he's in trouble. She criticizes him for his arrogance, while he realizes the problem he is involved in. Watching the scene, the man notes that the girl's temper continues to be the same. In the middle of the chaos, one of the guards, in panic, warns about the fight between the Demon Kings, fleeing thus with the others. The enraged girl orders that he die, launching a powerful attack. The Demon King is pulled while Lilith warns about the danger of the Demon Kings. Ignoring them, the woman attacks him again, promising to fry him. Lilith throws 2 chairs against the woman, making the attack stop at them. In a fast movement, the woman throws herself on the Demon King. Still enraged, the woman releases an even larger wave of energy. Enraged, she swears and prepares for the next attack. Lilith tries to calm her down, arguing that this is a sacred place, but the woman ignores her. The Demon Queen thinks that if the king were defeated, everything would be settled. Determined to end the confrontation, he orders Lilith out of the way. Lilith, taken by surprise, is thrown away by the fury of the Demon Queen. The Demon King observes the scene, astonished, as an explosion of energy fills the environment. He shouts for Lilith, worried about her safety. At that moment, Lilith emerges amidst the dust, surrounded by a purple aura. She introduces herself as the Demon King Kairos' secretary, and asserts that her existence is tied to her master's well-being. Determined, she declares that she will protect Kairos with her life. The Demon Queen, with a sadistic smile, questions her determination and threatens to kill them both. The Demon King tries to argue, asking them to resolve the situation peacefully, as the Great Demon King would punish them. But Bastia interrupts and threatens to kill him even if punished by the Great Demon King. The Demon King, thinking that if he fought against her, he would lose, while seeing Lilith and Bastia clashing their powers. Lilith, in a swift movement, positions herself between them, pushing the Demon King away. She reproaches Bastia for her recklessness and, panting, questions who she thinks she is. The woman introduces herself as the ruler of a tenth of the earthly kingdom, revealing her true name, Bastia Confredia. Lilith recognizes the name. Bastia Confredia is one of the 4 supreme rulers of the demon realm. She explains that while there are 72 demon kings, half of the world is ruled by only 4. The Demon King of Despair and Sadness, Caperia Bordos, the Demon Queen of Discouragement and Rejection, Rubernea Malmas, the Demon King of Joy and Madness, Satracross, and finally, the Demon Queen of Screams and Fury, Bastia Confredia. Lilith comments that she is facing one of the 4 greatest authorities of the demon realm, whom she had only heard about through rumors. She admits her luck in thought. Bastia conjures an energy sphere and in thought comments that the Demon King, even if he escaped before, this time will die. She fires the attack, devastating part of the office. In an act of desperation, the Demon King embraces Lilith, protecting her with his body. But something different happens. Astonished, Bastia observes the scene in silence. The Demon King notices that the attack had disappeared, then questions, magic cancellation ability? Irritated, Bastia demands to know how he is still alive. Confused, the Demon King questions how he possesses such power. Lilith explains that magic cancellation is an ability granted by the Great Demon King long ago, and questions how Kairos possesses it. An imposing and shadowy figure enters the room. He reveals he heard the commotion and came to check. Upon encountering Kairos, he comments that she seemed to be enjoying herself. Kairos, embarrassed, tries to disguise it, and the Great Demon King just smiles. Later, in a luxurious and imposing hall, the Great Demon King, seated on a throne, asks the Demon King about the reason for his visit. The Demon King then questions the nature of his GACHA power and whether there is something wrong with it. The Great Demon King, thoughtful, asks if there is any problem. Bastia, observing the conversation, thinks that, as expected, the Great Demon King is crazy. The Great Demon King, thoughtful, reveals that he had never seen the GACHA power in any Demon King before. Bastia, upon hearing this, spits out the wine she was drinking in disbelief, questioning the GACHA power. The Great Demon King points out Bastia's reaction and comments that it was the typical reaction for anyone hearing about his power. The Demon King, upset, argues that the process of obtaining abilities with GACHA is very complicated and the odds are uncertain, expressing his desire to exchange his power. The Great Demon King confirms the Demon King's request and, to his surprise, refuses to exchange it. The Demon King, perplexed, questions the reason for the refusal. The Great Demon King then reveals that he is bored and thought it would be fun to watch the Demon King use GACHA. Indignant, the Demon King questions how he can give him such an ability just for fun. The Great Demon King, with an enigmatic smile, affirms that he can give him something else. The Demon King stares at him, surprised, while Bastia watches them in silence. The Great Demon King then calls Bastia's attention. Bastia, frightened, responds to the call. The Great Demon King reproaches Bastia for her disrespectful conduct in front of his office, using his magic to subdue her. Frightened, Bastia apologizes and begs for mercy, but the Great Demon King interrupts her and strips her of the title of Demon Queen, stating that her position will be filled by a substitute. He then announces that from that moment on, she will become subordinate to Kairos. The Great Demon King orders her to obey the Demon King of Madness and Greed. The Demon King Kairos watches the scene, perplexed, while Bastia stares at him in surprise. The Great Demon King, with a cruel smile, questions if they have any objections. The Demon King and Bastia, with no alternative, accept the decision. Time passes, showing Karos sleeping. He gets up from bed, dazed, and realizes he is in a luxurious and unfamiliar room. Suddenly, Bastia appears in front of him, irritated and questioning him. The Demon King, confused, tries to understand the situation. Enraged, Bastia wouldn't accept those conditions. But since she had no other option, she asks if they would live together. Lilith reminds Bastia that they cannot disobey the great Demon King's decision. Taking advantage of the situation, Lilith suggests that Bastia choose her room. She explains that the room they are in is the Demon King's office, and the room below is hers. Meanwhile, in the attic of the house, the Demon King surveys the dusty and box-filled space. Lilith explains that the attic is used by the slimes and the succubus. Suddenly, a small, energetic figure leaps towards him, shouting, "Demon King!" Startled, the Demon King wonders what's happening. The figure clings to him, repeatedly calling him Demon King, which leaves him in panic. Watching the scene, Lilith comments that it seems the succubus has finally woken up. Still confused, the Demon King questions the succubus's behavior. She then clings to him, declaring her affection. Even more bewildered, the Demon King wonders why she's acting that way. Lilith explains that all monsters obtained through the GACHA are subservient to the Demon King, including the slimes. As the Demon King watches the slimes jumping around, he asks what skills they possess, only to be kicked by one. The succubus replies that they have none. Irritated, he reprimands her to not eat his hair. The Demon King then remembers that Bastia must obey him. With a malicious smile, he reminds the woman of her obedience, startling her. The scene opens in the imposing castle of Demon King Karos, in the demon realm. Inside one of the rooms, Lilith observes the Demon King, who is relaxed in an armchair. Curiously, he comments on Bastia's quiet behavior over the past week. Calmly, Lilith reassures him, saying she's just having fun with the slimes and succubus. The scene shows Bastia happily playing with the creatures, while Karos, in thought, recalls the difficulties he had dealing with the situation. He concludes that despite everything, Bastia and the succubus are similar in age. Back in the room, the Demon King asks Lilith about the current situation. She explains that they've erected double barriers to protect the house and avoid human discovery. Relieved, the Demon King notes that this keeps them safe for now. Lilith then reveals that there are about 72 Demon Kings on the surface. An image shows a group of Demon Kings with various grotesque appearances. She explains that over 30% of them have been defeated by human adventurers. The scene cuts to a blonde adventurer, bravely fighting a Demon King with horns and a bull-like appearance. The Demon King is struck by a magical attack and writhes on the ground. Next, another armored adventurer faces a skeletal Demon King, defeating it with a sword strike. The narrative states that human adventurers, driven by curiosity and desire for power, pose a great threat. Back at Karos's castle, Lilith explains that initially, they had to hide the castle to protect themselves from humans. Thoughtfully, the Demon King agrees on the need for caution. Lilith then declares it's time for a mission. Determined, the Demon King states they need to hunt monsters to increase their power. He asks Lilith for information on nearby monster habitats. Lilith informs him there are 4 nearby monster habitats. The closest is a goblin camp, estimated at 300 goblins. A bit farther, there's the domain of orcs, with about 500 of them. Lilith continues, describing the presence of an ogre cave in the nearby forest, but warns there's only one ogre, and it's hibernating. Curiously, the Demon King asks about the last habitat. Lilith reveals the last habitat is a mystery. They know there's something in the forest, but haven't identified it yet. She asks the Demon King which habitat they should visit first. After a moment of reflection, the Demon King decides they'll start with the goblin habitat. Lilith confirms the decision related to the goblin habitat. If he manages to conquer it, he'll receive 2 random boxes as a reward. Excited about the possibility of getting something good, the Demon King accepts the mission. The scene cuts to the Demon King and Bastia approaching the goblin camp. Indignant, Bastia mutters to herself that she, who once ruled 1/10 of the continent, is now fighting goblins as his subordinate. Focused on the mission, the Demon King orders her to be quiet and follow him. He assures her he'll handle everything and asks her not to interfere. Reluctantly, Bastia obeys. Suddenly, Bastia breaks away and runs in the opposite direction of the goblin camp. The Demon King calls out to her, telling her not to go. Arriving at the camp entrance, the Demon King observes, surprised, the number of goblins, which is more than he expected. He wonders what to do and asks Bastia's opinion. Panicking, Lilith tries to warn them about an approaching goblin, but is ignored. Taking advantage of the situation, Bastia shouts at the goblins, ordering them to bow and swear loyalty to her and the Demon King immediately. Watching the scene, the Demon King thinks Bastia is crazy. Enraged, the goblins open the camp gates and prepare to attack. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the Demon King thinks they're in trouble. He calculates there are at least 500 goblins ready for combat. At that moment, a goblin of imposing stature and serious features emerges before them. Surprised by the appearance, the Demon King stares at him apprehensively. He wonders what to do as the goblin approaches. Suddenly, the goblin kneels before the Demon King and pledges loyalty to him, calling him master. The Demon King, not understanding the situation, is astonished. The other goblins also kneel and swear loyalty to the Demon King, who watches the scene, perplexed. With a smile, Bastia praises the wisdom of the goblins, while the Demon King wonders if the task was really that easy. The scene then cuts to the inside of the camp, where a lavish table is set with various delicacies. The Demon King and Bastia sit down. Table, Bastia, drinking wine, hears Karo's comment that the goblins surrendered very easily. While the Demon King reflects on the situation, a goblin approaches, offering him a basket of fruits. Bastia, confident, states that it's natural for them to submit to his power. The goblin chief then approaches the Demon King and offers to guide him through the village. The Demon King accepts, and the goblin chief leads them through the huts. The Demon King, observing the village, doubts that anything will happen. As they walk through the village, the Demon King notices the size of the camp and considers it large enough to be considered a high-level monster camp. Suddenly, he spots an unusual structure and asks the Goblin Chief what it is. The Goblin Chief, without much importance, replies that it's just an ogre they subdued. The Demon King, surprised, wonders if they really subdued an ogre. Recalling the great power difference between goblins and ogres, he states that not even 100 goblins would be enough to defeat a single ogre. Calling for Bastia, who still had the cup, he interrupts her and orders her to throw the cup away, but Bastia retorts that she has already drunk it all. At that moment, several goblins appear, armed with spears and swords, and surround the Demon King and Bastia. The Demon King, sensing the sudden change in behavior of the goblins, concludes that something is wrong. He orders Bastia to use magic to eliminate them. Bastia, confident, accepts the order and tries to cast a spell, but nothing happens. Confused, she wonders why her magic disappeared. The Demon King, in shock, watches the scene as the goblins advance to attack. He despairs, thinking it's all over. The scene shifts. Bastia finds herself trapped in a dark, damp cave. Confused and irritated, Bastia wonders what's going on and demands to be freed. The Demon King, tied up beside her, realizes it's futile and reveals that he's behind the situation. He asks if she now understands what happens when she insists on doing things her way. Bastia, displaying irritation, sees the goblins approaching and regrets not having her magical powers, wishing she could take revenge on those fools. The Demon King, with a sarcastic smile, states that's the point. The goblins are too simple to have orchestrated it. He's sure another Demon King is behind the situation. Bastia questions the identity of the involved Demon King, and the Demon King replies that there are many suspects. He asserts that even if Lilith had noticed something, it would have been impossible for her to come alone. Concluding, the Demon King decides that for now they can only observe. The Goblin Chief, proud, boasts of having subdued the Demon Kings. Bastia, irritated, curses him. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Time passes slowly in the cave. Restless, Bastia approaches the Demon King and asks why he helped her in the past. The Demon King, confused, asks what she's talking about. Bastia accuses him of feigning ignorance and recalls events at the academy, where the Demon King supposedly humiliated her. He denies the accusations, but Bastia insists that he spread rumors about her. The Demon King, even more confused, asks about which rumors she's referring to. Furious, Bastia accuses him of pretending not to understand. She reveals knowing that he spread the rumor that she was the daughter of a brothel owner. Bastia recalls their times at the academy when she considered him a friend and questions how he could betray her and spread such a rumor. She accuses him of knowing how much she suffered back then because she was the daughter of a brothel owner. The Demon King, in shock, claims it's the first time he's hearing this. Bestia, incredulous, questions him, and the Demon King confirms his surprise. He then understands the situation. At that moment, the Goblin Chief enters the cave and orders his subordinates to bring Kairos there. Bestia questions why they're calling only Kairos. Irritated, Bestia responds that it's the Master's will. At that moment, Kairos is brought to the cave, escorted by the goblins. The Goblin Chief orders them to treat the Master with respect. Kairos, surprised, greets the Demon King, who responds coldly, revealing that he knows the one responsible for his situation, Borkinia Barsilov, the Demon King of betrayal and deception. Borkinia, observing the scene through a crystal ball, questions how the Demon King found out. The Demon King replies that he's sure Borkinia wants something, since he went to the trouble of orchestrating it all. With a sinister smile, Borkinia reveals he only wants the Demon King to convince Bestia to come to him. The Demon King is surprised by the request. Borkinia reveals his goal, to eliminate Satracross. He explains that Satracross is after his territory, putting him in a delicate situation. The Demon King recalls Satracross's power, one of the 4 supreme rulers of the demon realm. He knows it would be impossible to face him alone, but with Bestia's help, maybe he has a chance. Borkinia then recalls Bestia's strength and loyalty. The scene cuts to Bestia in her past, swearing allegiance to Satracross in a ceremony. Kairos explains that Bestia is now his subordinate and has lost the power she had with Satracross. But Borkinia comments that her influence still remains. He warns the Demon King that if they rely solely on Bestia's influence, her territory will disintegrate, and her subordinates will lose trust and abandon her. Borkinia then turns to Kairos and argues that he won't lose anything if he does this favor for him. In return, Kairos will receive as many monsters as he wants. When Bestia loses all her influence, she will become Kairos's silent subordinate forever. Borkinia asks what Kairos thinks of the proposal. The Demon King, listening attentively, agrees with Borkinia, but to their surprise, he rejects the offer. Borkinia, incredulous, questions the reason for the refusal. The Demon King explains that he has principles that guide him, one of which is to protect his subordinates. He states that he prefers to achieve his goals with his own hands rather than resort to despicable acts, and that, after hearing the rumors about Bestia, he could not accept Borkinia's suggestion. While reminiscing about his past at the academy, when she was tormented because of rumors about her family, he wonders who spread the rumor that she was the daughter of a brothel owner, continuing to recall a moment at the academy when a shadowy figure watched her while she talked with Kairos. He questions if it was she who spread the rumor and incriminated him to separate them. Back in his conversation with the Demon King, Borkinia sighs at the refusal and states that she already knows enough about the Demon King's intentions. He threatens to let him die in the cave. The Goblin Chief just smiles and replies that he will kill the Demon King. The Demon King observes the goblins' movements, and Borkinia, through the crystal ball, orders them to kill him. The Goblin Chief accepts the order and prepares to attack the Demon King with a sword. The Demon King just smiles. With a confident smile, the Demon King rises and reveals to Borkinia that he forgot something: the power of the Demon King. He then summons a green slime and holds it in his hand. Borkinia, observing the scene, questions what he is doing. The Demon King, with a determined look, orders the slimes, trapped in his pocket, to present themselves. An explosion of multicolored energy fills the cave. The scene cuts. The Demon King, questioned by Lilith about the usefulness of the slimes, explains that they have the ability to reduce their volume. He then compresses them into small spheres and stores them in his pocket. Suddenly, the Demon King realizes that the slimes are multiplying inside his pocket. He tries to remove them, but it's too late. The slimes spread throughout the cave. The Goblin Chief, in panic, despairs at seeing the slimes. The Goblin Chief, in tears, begs Kairos not to kill him and offers to serve him as master. Borkinia, furious at the Goblin Chief's betrayal, curses him and threatens to kill him. The Demon King, observing the scene, comments that relationships formed by threats are fragile. He questions Borkinia if things will really go as he plans. Borkinia, through the crystal ball, orders the goblins to kill Kairos and the Goblin Chief. Borkinia, through the crystal ball, orders once again for the goblins to kill them. The Demon King, with an ironic smile, explains that to use goblins one must understand their nature. They only obey their representative, the village chief. The Demon King then reveals that the chief is now on his side. He orders the Goblin Chief to lead him to the antidote for the poison the goblins used. The Goblin Chief, in panic, agrees. Borkinia watches the scene, incredulous, as the Demon King and the Goblin Chief leave the room. Furious, she destroys the crystal ball. Bestia, alone in the cave, wonders if the Demon King is dead. In his thoughts, the Demon King states that this is the first time he has heard about Bastizia's past and that he is lying. Bastizia then recalls her past in the village of Pantania, a place known for accumulating garbage. She was born as the daughter of a low-class prostitute and grew up in poverty and violence. Her mother made money while being beaten almost every day. Bastizia recalls difficult moments from her childhood, marked by misery and suffering. Bastizia remembers that, despite the poverty, she was happier than anyone else. But when she grew a little older, coming home after a tiring day, she found her mother being attacked by a group of men. Desperate, she screams for her mother, but it's too late. Her only family, her mother, was dead. One of the men approaches Bastizia and comments on her beauty, suggesting they have fun with her before selling her. Bastizia, in shock, cannot react. And it was at that moment that everything began. When she discovered she had magical powers, an explosion of energy fills the place, and Bastizia screams in pain. Years later, a man hears rumors about a girl with magical powers so strong that they only appear once every 10 years. She wonders if that little girl could be her. In a ceremony, Bastizia receives a new name, Bastizia Confritia. Bastizia recalls the day she was adopted by a noble family and began attending the academy. With a serious expression, she watches other students commenting on her new position as the adopted daughter of the Confritia family. Bastizia realizes that, with just the title of a prestigious family, everyone's attitude changed, except for one, a boy who did not come from a prestigious family and had risen in life on his own. She thought maybe he was in a situation similar to hers. In a scene, Karos confronts Bastizia, asking why she's always picking fights. Bastizia replies that it's because he's ugly. The narrative then reveals that's how Bastizia and Karos truly became friends, or so she thought. Back at the academy, Bastizia hears other students whispering about her. They comment that she's actually from Pantania and the daughter of a low-class prostitute. Bastizia, in shock, feels her heart racing. Later, Bastizia is helped by Borkinia, who asks if she's okay and if Karos has been spreading rumors. Bastizia, confused and hurt, asks Karos if it was really him. Confronting Karos, Bastizia asks if it was him who did that, but the boy thinks she's talking about the magic incident. Karos then answers that of course it was him. Back in the cave, Bastizia wonders if he will die soon anyway, so why worry about the past? Hearing footsteps, she orders the goblins to kill her quickly. The Demon King calmly calms her down and offers the antidote to the poison. Surprised, Bastizia asks how he got the antidote. The Demon King replies that there are ways. He then reveals that the source of the rumors about Bastizia was not him, but Borkinia. Bastizia falls silent in shock, tears streaming down her face. Observing Bastizia's reaction, the Demon King suggests they stop the misunderstandings and return to the castle. Bastizia stares at him, still in shock. The Demon King helps her up, and they leave the cave. Back at the castle, the Demon King relaxes in an armchair and comments on how this place is truly the best. Lilith rejoices at his safe return and asks if he intends to take the goblin as his subordinate. The Demon King confirms and reveals that there are about 200 goblins under the chief's command who could be used as a special force. He decides that the goblin chief will live with them in the castle and orders Lilith to take care of him. She accepts the task. Next, Bastizia seeks out Karos, stating that she needs to talk to him. Karos asks her about the subject, wondering what Bastizia will say now. Bastizia then reveals the truth about Borkinia Barcelov to Karos. In her thoughts, Bastizia recalls when she considered Borkinia a true friend, but she never saw him the same way. Bastizia apologizes to Karos for blindly believing Borkinia's words. Then, to Karos's surprise, Bastizia kneels before him and swears loyalty, promising to follow his orders. The narrative explains that this is the ceremony to become a subordinate of a Demon King. The Demon King watches the scene thoughtfully and recognizes that Bastizia, swearing loyalty, willingly means she recognizes him as superior. He consents to the ceremony. In his thoughts, the Demon King feels uneasy about Bastizia's sudden change in attitude, but decides it doesn't matter. Bastizia asserts that she will do what Karos desires. Later, Bastizia, Lilith, and the Demon King have tea in the living room. The succubus enters the room and watches them. Bastizia questions the Demon King about what they will do now, if they will attack another village since they have subdued the goblins. The Demon King replies that before that, there is something they need to do. Bastizia wonders what that would be. The Demon King asks her if she remembers Lilith's promise to grant him a special ability if he completed the mission. Lilith confirms the promise. She explains that she will give him the ability, but is not sure if he will like it. Confidently, the Demon King states that it can't be worse than the current situation. Lilith then focuses her magic, creating a magical portal. Surprised, the Demon King asks what that is. Lilith asks him to enter the portal. Accompanied by Bastia and Lilith, the Demon King crosses the portal and arrives in a dark and mysterious place. He is amazed to realize that he is in a subspace. Next, the scene changes to a large technological space with details in purple and black. The Demon King questions the utility of that place with such tacky colors. Lilith asks him to look at the place she indicated. A panel with numbers opens before them. The Demon King asks about the meaning of those numbers. Lilith explains that he can buy those boxes using the points displayed on the scoreboard. The Demon King observes one of the tables with a box, which costs 100 points, and asks if the others are empty. Lilith then recalls that the Great Demon King said that, over time, he would fill the rest of the tables. The Demon King deduces that at the moment, they can only buy 32 of those boxes, which Lilith confirms. Determined, the Demon King suggests they buy all the available boxes, since they don't know when the rest will be added. Back at the castle, the Demon King tells them to open the boxes one by one. The Demon King opens the first box, surprised, and observes the object that emerges from the box. He wonders what that is. Lilith identifies it as Brian, a divine ore. Bastia explains that Brian is a dangerous mineral that causes fatal injuries just by touching it. She recalls that the ore had disappeared thousands of years ago, and wonders what it's doing there. Intrigued, the Demon King asks if the ore is that valuable. Bastia confirms, and Karos suggests he keep it in the box for now so they can open the others. The Demon King agrees. Next, the Demon King opens the remaining boxes, which release a burst of multicolored energy. The Demon King then checks the items he obtained in the boxes: an old and rusty sword, a dusty shield, and a piece of paper. Disappointed, Karos exclaims that as expected, there was nothing useful. Lilith informs them that there are 2 boxes left. The Demon King picks up one of the remaining boxes and examines it, commenting that it has a strange smell. Upon opening the box, he is greeted with rotten tangerines and exclaims in disgust. The succubus, excited, approaches and claims that it's not trash. The Demon King asks her what it is, and the succubus explains that it's a necklace that emits a mysterious fragrance. Blocks magic. Bastia picks up the necklace and puts it around her neck, confirming that she no longer feels any magic. The Demon King observes the necklace, surprised, and recognizes its usefulness. He concludes that, in 32 attempts, he obtained a magic-blocking necklace and Brian ore, which perhaps isn't as bad a result as he thought. The Demon King suggests they organize everything first. Bastia and the succubus argued over who would wear the necklace. The Demon King was about to throw a bag of money away, but Lilith interrupts him and asks if she can keep it. The Demon King is surprised and asks what she will do with human world money. Lilith replies that she wants to buy some apples, as it's the season. The Demon King agrees. He wonders if it's okay, but soon concludes it doesn't matter, as he intended to visit a human village soon, and states he needs to investigate the first target. Hidden in tall grass, the Demon King observes behind it, "Why are these 2 following me again?" Irritated, he questions Bastia and the succubus about why they are following him. Bastia argues it's better to accompany him in case something's happened, since with the necklace she can nullify magical powers. The Demon King reluctantly agrees. He then questions the succubus about why she's there. The succubus justifies by saying she hasn't had her coming-of-age ceremony yet and lacks magic. She claims she can hide her horns and wings and camouflage herself. The Demon King sighing concedes and asks her not to cause trouble. Bastia and the succubus celebrate as they approach the village. The Demon King suggests they change clothes since they are almost reaching the village. He hands cloaks with hoods to the Demon King and the succubus. Bastia, while putting on the cloak, agrees, saying they are almost there. As they reach the village gates, the Demon King observes and comments to the succubus, "Can't you do something about those things on your head?" The succubus in response says she would like to, but the slime feels comfortable there and doesn't want to leave. Karos, observing the girl with the slime on her head, asks if they speak, and Bastia confirms, explaining that the beings he summoned can communicate with each other. The succubus appears upset by the comment. Then she announces they have arrived. The 3 observe the village gates, and the succubus comments that the place is quite large. At this moment, a guard approaches and orders them to stop, questioning what they are doing there. The Demon King introduces himself as an adventurer who has been traveling for a long time and exhausted, so he would like to rest in the village. The guard asks to see his identification. Bastia, in a sudden movement, steps in front of the Demon King and uses her magic to manipulate him. The guard then allows them entry into the village. Guard welcomes them to the village. The Demon King, surprised, thinks it was too easy. As they enter the village, he is impressed by its size and organization. The Demon King comments that the place is very beautiful. He observes that despite life seeming peaceful, the public sentiment doesn't seem good. Curious, Bastisia asks how he knows, and Karos explains that although the stalls are full and people seem to be making a living, happy children's faces and the sad adults' eyes say a lot. Bastisia agrees, thoughtful. As they walk through the village, Succubus bumps into a man. The man apologizes and Bastisia gets angry with the boy. The Demon King intervenes, asking her not to get into trouble with a child and telling her to let him go. Bastisia questions him about why he's letting the man go. The Demon King replies that she needs to control her temper. At that moment, the succubus jumps in, announcing she found a fruit stand. Near the stand, the Demon King observes the fruits and orders the other three to stay quiet no matter what happens. Bastisia wondered grumpily if she was a child, and the succubus agreed. With a gentle smile, the Demon King asks to buy some apples. The vendor praises the apples, saying they are very ripe and that this year's harvest was great. He then asks the Demon King why the atmosphere in the region feels strange. The Demon King, confused, stares at him with a questioning look. The vendor reveals that the strange atmosphere is due to the new lord. The Demon King asks who the Lord is, and the vendor explains that a new lord recently took over the territory, and opinions about him are not good. He comments that nobles can be arrogant, and there are rumors that the new lord imprisoned the old lord who lived in the castle. The Demon King asks why he was imprisoned. The vendor replies that he doesn't know, that the two never got along. The Demon King, pensive, considers the story interesting, and concludes it might just be a rumor but worth investigating. Next, the Demon King asks for the money bag from the succubus. She denies having the bag and Bastisia questions her, annoyed. The succubus explains that the child who bumped into her earlier stole her bag. The trio observed the innocence of the succubus. Elsewhere, the boy walks through a dark alley and is approached by a group of bandits. They greet him and ask what he got that day. The man hands over a bag of money to the group's leader. The leader opens the bag, and the succubus is surprised by the amount of money, commenting that boy number 3 managed to get a good amount. The leader of the bandits stares at Bastisia with a lascivious look and comments on her beauty, calling her a rare beauty and questioning her courage for being there. Irritated, Bastisia uses her magic and attacks him. The leader of the bandits is thrown away by the attack and falls to the ground, unconscious. Bastisia approaches him, furious, and curses him, calling him an idiot. She then orders the boy to return the stolen money. The scared boy shrinks on the ground, while the other bandits watch. One of the bandits asks what they think they're doing, if they think they'll return the money without a fight. The bandits look at each other, and the second in command challenges her. Bastisia watches the scene and wonders how long she will have to endure this. The Demon King reassures her, stating that they won't need to fight. The Demon King, incredulous, questions the statement, and Bastisia smiles. At that moment, the slime on the succubus's head becomes irritated, attacking confused and scared bandits trying to defend themselves. But they are immobilized by the slime, which is sticky and difficult to remove. The Demon King watches the scene and thinks that this was the succubus's chance to show her abilities, but the succubus comments that the slime seems to be frustrated. The slime approaches with the succubus's money bag, commenting that it found the money. The boy tries to escape, but the Demon King grabs his shoulder, asking where the boy is going. The boy begs for help. The Demon King ignores him and asks if he knows anyone in the village. The scared boy stammers. The Demon King then asks where his parents are. The boy replies that he is an orphan. The Demon King, with a pensive look, decides to take the boy to the castle and take care of him. Bastisia asks if he won't kill him. The Demon King replies that they will give the boy food and a warm place to sleep. Surprised, the boy asks if he's serious. The Demon King proposes a deal in exchange for their care, and the boy accepts without hesitation. The Demon King extends his hand to the boy, who shakes it. A bright aura surrounds both of them. Shocked, the boy feels energy coursing through his body. After receiving a call, the Goblin Chief rushes to take the boy to the Demon King's castle. The Goblin Chief also brings other news. The ogres have awakened and started devouring the goblins. He pleads for help. The Demon King walks through the forest alongside Bastisia and the succubus, the latter complaining about having to deal with ogres again. Karos tells her to stop complaining and go ahead. Bastisia asks why he is letting him live. The Demon King says that there are many Demon Kings who dominate human villages by force, complete answering that he is taking a different path. The Demon King explains that he will sow discord in the empire from within, so that it weakens and decreases in size, as it is not always the external enemy that destroys a giant, but its own system. He states that, for that, he will need some humans by his side. Bastisia, irritated, asks if he really needs those humans. since he can simply eliminate them by force. The Demon King replies that she would not understand the reason for doing so. Meanwhile, the succubus approaches a peaceful human village flying over it. She sees bright jewels in a box and, excited, exclaims that she found something shiny. The succubus decides to take the jewels to the Demon King, sure that he will be happy. She then meets someone by seeing a glow in a window. As she approaches, she is surprised by a gray-haired woman. The woman asks her who she is. The succubus, surprised, asks the woman if she can see her, and she replies yes. The succubus, confused, thinks she should be invisible. The woman warns the succubus that that place is not safe for a child like her and sends her back before someone sees her, as far away as she can. The succubus doesn't understand and thinks that human is strange. Having an idea, she says she was going to get something. Back at the castle, Lilith was eating an apple while questioning the Demon King and Bestia about the conquest of the ogre's cave. Kairos answers that they took less than 3 minutes to capture the ogre. There were no problems. Lilith then asks Bestia when she intends to return to the human village. Kairos says she needs to do something about it. The Demon King approaches and states that, as he had said, they need to let humans destroy themselves without interference. Bestia asks how they will do that. The Demon King explains that they will organize an internal rebellion led by the nobles. It's not a rebellion but a fight for territory, soon exclaiming bingo. The Demon King, pensive, wonders where they can find a noble to join them. Bestia remembers what the vendor said about a noble named Lady. She suggests they look for her, and the Demon King agrees. Bestia, with a confident smile, asserts that they are all the help she needs. The Demon King, observing Bestia, agrees and decides to wake the boy to ask him something. The Demon King sits before the boy, who is sitting on a bed, and asks his name. The boy responds, stuttering, that his name is Jacob. The Demon King asks Jacob if he knows anything about the Lord's daughter in the village. Jacob replies that her name is Irina Astria. In the village, Irina walks through the streets, elegantly dressed. Jacob describes Irina as a beautiful woman with gray hair and golden eyes, around 20 years old. He recounts that Irina was beloved by everyone in the village because she cared for the poorer residents, a rare type of noble. Jacob, with a sad expression, laments that now. Hearing Irina's description, the pensive succubus affirms that she knows this person. In a cell, Irina sits on the floor, chained. A guard approaches and asks if she is all right. Irina responds that she is fine, that it is the first time she eats a meal like that, and that there is no need to follow the orders he needs to follow. The guard, observing the scene, questions how the situation reached that point. Irina replies that she is the eldest daughter, has no right to succession, and that her younger brother is the heir, so it is natural that it happened. The guard interrupts, reminding that now her brother is in a fit of rage, drinking alcohol at the expense of the village on a fictional holiday, breaking things, and kidnapping innocent women, all for the satisfaction of a single night. The guard, observing Irina in the uncomfortable cell, comments that it would have been better if she were the Lord instead of her brother. Irina interrupts, telling her to return, for it will not be safe if she stays there for too long. The guard leaves the cell while Irina thinks about how much suffering must be of the village residents, and that it would be much better if there were a law that allowed women to become lords. Irina, alone in the cell, wonders why she is suffering so much. At that moment, a magical aura envelops her, and she feels a good sensation. Behind her, the Demon King was leaving a portal, and commenting something very good is happening. He enters the cell and offers an apple to Irina, saying that she will never be satisfied with just bread. Irina, surprised, looks at him with suspicion and wonders what he wants from her. The Demon King smiles and says that, since she seems to be an intelligent person, he will introduce himself formally. He is Kairos, the Demon King of madness and greed. Irina is startled to hear the name. The Demon King then asks her if she wants revenge. Irina, confused, stares at him. The Demon King reassures her, saying that she does not need to be afraid, for it is just a simple agreement. He will give her what she wants, and she will give him what he wants. Irina replies that she is not interested in making deals with the devil. The Demon King then says that she has no other choice, and that she must think carefully about the proposal. With a threatening smile, the Demon King asks Irina what would be the wisest course for her and for the people. Lilith, Bestia, and the succubus watch the portal open once again. The Demon King leaves the cell, and Lilith comments that Bestia did a good job. The Demon King replies, saying that anyone would be able to do that. Bestia then questions the need for that. The Demon King explains that part of being a demon is to have confidence, and that when making a deal, one must make the other person trust you. Bestia comments that he seems like a negotiator. The Demon King agrees. The succubus approaches the Demon King, who is drinking wine, and calls him. The Demon King responds. The succubus, in thought, asks Lilith if she is not thinking of killing Irina. The Demon King reassures her, saying that she does not need to worry, for they will keep Irina alive when they dominate the human village. Demon King, in thought, wonders why he would kill Irina, since he already has in his hands the power of a person with status to get what he wants. In the cell, Irina thinks about how she will use the situation to her advantage. In the village, Karos released an ogre near the village for a short period of time, every day. The man asks, irritated, what is happening to his subordinates and what is their usefulness if they cannot deal with it? One of the advisors replies that they are trying to figure it out, but all they know is that it is an ogre. The Lord, perplexed, repeats the information. The advisor explains that ogres have the power to break human defenses and destroy gates with a single blow, and questions why that creature is in a small village like theirs. The Lord responds that he is trying to figure it out and that the situation is very dangerous, as they cannot send more guards. The Lord, furious, questions if he did not send any guards. The Lord explains that if it really is an ogre, the search group will not survive and that they are very close to enemy territory. The goblin chief, desperate, is interrupted by the Lord. The Lord coldly asserts that it is not their business how many will die and orders them to send a search group outside the walls and capture the ogre. The rest will defend the castle with the remaining forces. The advisor, dejected, agrees. Meanwhile, the narrative reveals that, as Karos had foreseen, the search party was massacred by the ogre, including the counselor's son. The counselor laments his son's death and calls for action, saying they can't live like this forever. He states that all his children will die, but the Lord does not yield to the pressure. Jacob approaches the group of counselors and orders them to spread the rumor that Irina is imprisoned in the castle and to tell the villagers the real truth, not just a rumor. He reveals that Lady Irina, the woman who cared for them, is still alive, and that the missing girl is imprisoned in the castle. The villagers wonder if it's true and if they can really believe him, if it's not a lie. In the cell, Irina hears the voices of the villagers approaching and thinks that if it weren't for those chains, the Demon King, back in the cell, asks Irina if she hears those voices, that the entire town is looking for her. He asks her if she is willing to sign a contract with him now. Back at the castle, a banquet is served. The succubus, delighted with the food, comments that it looks delicious. The Demon King, sitting at the table next to Bastija and the succubus, proposes a toast before they eat. They toast to the conquest of the human village outpost. Bastija hands the magic necklace to Karos as a reward for his hard work. He retorts that she is giving him the necklace because it is too heavy to carry. The goblin chief, sitting at the table with a slime on his head, burps, and Karos asks what is wrong with him. Bastija replies that she doesn't know. Maybe he's drunk. Bastija then asks the Demon King to tell more about what happened after they captured the ogre. The Demon King smiles and takes a sip of wine. In the tower where Irina was, the Demon King goes to her, who watches the man approaching, hearing him ask what she will do. He asks her if she is willing to sign a contract with him now. Irina, with a reluctant look, agrees. Irina, with a determined smile, promises the Demon King to stay by his side. The chains that bound her break, and Irina frees herself. She walks out of the cell, passing by the guards fallen on the ground. From the top of the wall, Irina addresses the villagers, ordering them to follow her, that the rightful ruler is back and the usurper will be dethroned. The villagers, surprised, recognize Irina and call her by name. They wonder who would be responsible for imprisoning her and decide to remove him from power. Irina leads the villagers towards the castle, calling for the removal of the current lord and the arrival of a new lord. The succubus, watching the scene, comments that the lord is incredible. Lilith asks why they said women couldn't be lords in human villages. Lilith replies that it was like that, but she heard that the new emperor passed a new law allowing women to become lords. The Demon King remembers the emperor, sitting on his throne, saying that this law encouraged him to pass a new law allowing women to become lords. Lilith, giving a thumbs up, comments that there was that kind of story behind the law. She then praises the Demon King for having thought of all that. The Demon King replies that in fact the emperor was manipulated. Bastija, in shock, seems to remember something. The Demon King calls her, asking if something is wrong. Running out of the castle, Bastija sees an imposing and radiant figure, a woman. Bastija asks what she is doing there, thinking that she has great energy for a mortal, wielding a sword. Lilith and the Demon King leave the castle and wonder who that person is. Lilith orders them to dodge, and so a powerful energy beam is launched by the woman, but Bastija creates a shield, barely avoiding the attack from the mysterious figure. The figure introduces herself as Sinclair Secread, a heroine who answered the call of the sun god, and declares that she has come to kill the Demon King. Bastisia, in shock, thinks that she is a heroine she cannot defeat alone. Bastisia notices that the woman and Kairos had disappeared. She appears irritated. Kairos questions how the heroine of the sun god arrived there. The Demon King, in shock, thinks that this is an unbelievable twist. Sinclair stares at him with a confident smile, raising her sword. The Demon King, terrified, thinks, "Damn, is this it?" Sinclair addresses the Demon King and orders the human not to fear anymore, as she will protect him from the demons. The Demon King, confused, questions her. In thought, he wonders if she thinks he is a human because of the necklace. Sinclair, with a determined look, prepares to attack, declaring that she will eliminate that evil group and bring peace. The Demon King watches the attack approaching and thinks about how to get out of that situation unscathed, forced to think of a solution. The Demon King, in a desperate act, throws himself in front of Sinclair and begs for help, saying he is about to faint. Sinclair, confused, questions the request. The woman observes the scene and wonders if that is the work of a demon. Sinclair approaches the Demon King and holds him, hearing from him that he is having trouble breathing. The Demon King agonizes while Sinclair comments that this happens with a simple touch of a saint's power. The Demon King asks Sinclair to take him to the village. She agrees and holds him firmly, ordering him to hold on tight. In an instant, they disappear in a beam of light. Bastisia, in shock, shouts the Demon King's name. Lilith, observing the scene, tries to reassure Bastisia, saying that the Demon King will be fine and that they should just trust and wait.